Hello again, NBA fans, and welcome back to our NBA Roundtable. My name is Matt Eppers. I am a digital producer at USA Today Sports, and joining me once again is NBA reporter Jeff Zilgett. We are here again to go around the NBA and touch on a handful of the big topics in the news. And we want to start with Steph Curry.
Well, there's a couple different things, and some of the people I talked to, Reggie Miller says that Steph revolutionized the game, and he's just one of a handful of players who have been able to revolutionize the game or really change how the game was played. And he was able to do it with the three-point shot. And some of the things, so Matt, you mentioned the run-up to passing Ray Allen. Just look at the volume and number of three-pointers he makes a game. He's about, he makes 5 threes a game. He takes about 13 a game. But then overall, you talk to Steve Kerr, which I did for the story. Steve talks about how it's inspiring a generation of point guards, younger, both boys and girls, who look at the position differently now. And even Steve Kerr had to redefine what he thought was a good shot because he had just been programmed, coached, and taught that, only certain shots were good shots. And Steph obliterated that, and everyone else has figured it out.
From one championship team to another, we want to focus now on the reigning champion Bucks in Milwaukee, who have really started to round into form lately after a bit of a slow start and some various injuries. Jeff, what have you seen from the Bucks in recent weeks that has contributed to this turnaround of theirs?
Well, really, it's getting the three main guys together on the court, and I'm talking Giannis Antetokounmpo, Chris Middleton, and Drew Holiday. And Matt, you and I have had this discussion, and obviously this is subject to change, but in the 15 games they had played on the court, prior to us sitting down and talking about this, they were 13-2 when those three guys played. That's just indicative of the impact they have. And what we're also starting to see, people have heard me say this a bunch on various programs, but I don't like the idea of naming who the MVP is after 2 months of the season because I think it's unfair to a guy who finishes the final 2 months of the season just as strong as another player started the first 2 months of the season. Well, let's take a look. Let's not leave Giannis Antetokounmpo out of the MVP discussion. I know we all want to talk about what Kevin Durant and Steph Curry are doing, rightfully so. Let's not forget what Giannis is doing. He is just barreling through even more than he did last season or the season before. And he's really starting to take his game to a different level. Don't forget, he was really, really young when he started winning. Not super young, but, not Derrick Rose young, but, mid-20s winning these MVPs. He's just now getting to the point where people think is the age of the player is in his prime. And they're going to challenge for that top seed in the East by the time the season gets to April and we're winding down the regular season.
Another big storyline in the NBA right now, a bit of an unfortunate storyline, is a rise in COVID cases. Jeff, what is the NBA's thinking on this? How are they preparing for the potential of more COVID cases and the potential of more postponed games?
The league was expecting that there would be a rise in COVID cases. If we look at some of the postponed games from last year, there were so many of them that happened in January, February, March. During that time when more people were indoors, there was a greater chance of transmission and players getting COVID. And so the league acknowledges is that may happen again. Their goal is to keep it as limited as possible. They've recommended in a memo that all players get boosted. And, the last I had heard, at least 60% of players have received booster shots. So, that's probably, from when I last heard that a couple weeks ago, they're probably edging closer, to 70%. And the NBA realizes that this is the environment we're in right now, and that teams and players are just going to have to live with the idea that there are going to be some games where you don't have your full lineup because of COVID.
And to close our show this time, we wanted to touch briefly on the trade market. Jeff, where does the landscape sort of stand as we enter this sort of 2-month dash before the trade deadline in February?
Many eyes are going to be on the Ben Simmons situation with the Philadelphia 76ers. And I've said from the get-go, and Daryl Morey, the president of basketball ops of the Philadelphia 76ers, has said that he's going to be patient and wait for the right deal. And to the point you just made, Matt, about the December 15th date being when more guys are eligible who signed over the summer to be traded, Daryl Morey and the Philadelphia 76ers wanted to be patient, to survey the landscape, to see which teams after, basically 2 months of the season were going to be sellers, and to see what the best deal they could get for Ben Simmons. It made sense for them to wait, even if it has ended up in some early season struggles for the Sixers. But they're going to be the team that people watch most. And maybe this ends up being more than a 2-team deal. You may need a third team or a fourth team involved to accommodate every team's wishes in a trade. Los Angeles Lakers, I'm not saying they're going to make a deal now, and I do think that they have some limits in what they can do. But if we move into January and late January, and this team is still, sort of floating in that 500 mark, and they're not figuring it out, they're going to have to make some moves. I think people will be watching the Damian Lillard, Portland Trailblazers situation, but everything I've reported so far and have learned is that Damian hasn't asked out, doesn't plan on asking out, and would prefer to work with whoever the Blazers hire as their next general manager to find the right players that this Portland team can compete a little bit better in the Western Conference.
Hey sports fans, if you want to see more videos like this, check out some of our other ones right here. And if you like what you see, make sure to hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more from USA Today Sports.